Okay, today we're looking at your America Expands Westward notes, how we go from sea to shining sea. So the point of this lesson is understanding how the United States is able to go from this, okay, our original 13 colonies, to this. All right, we begin first and foremost with the Northwest Territory. Remember that after the American Revolution, the first document or constitution is the Articles of Confederation. One of its great successes is the Northwest Ordinance happens during that time. And the Northwest Ordinance is going to provide for an orderly expansion of the United States. How many people a territory must have, how they can end up with representatives coming to Congress, etc. All right, the next big expansion is going to come from the Louisiana Purchase. We purchased it from France. It occurs in the year 1803, and the effect it has on the United States is that it doubles the size of the country. All right, so we have gotten to this point after the American Revolution, okay, to the Mississippi River, and now 1803, we have gotten here with the Louisiana Purchase. All right, one of the reasons why the United States is going to expand from sea to shining sea is the idea of manifest destiny. Manifest being clear and obvious, and destiny bound to happen. Americans believe that it's their duty, God-given right, to spread across the entire continent in order to spread democracy, Christianity, our Western culture, things like that. This is very reminiscent to the exploration unit when we talked about the 3 Gs, God, gold, and glory. Some of those same things and same reasonings for exploring America are going to be reasons why the United States of America is going to continue to expand. Okay, so occupying the Atlantic to the Pacific, one of the things that you want to do is strengthen security, provide economic opportunity, and it will discourage threats from rival powers like England, Spain, and Russia. With it strengthening the security, we will not be as surrounded by different powers as we were before the United States is able to take over from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast. All right, this image is the iconic Manifest Destiny picture. What I would like for you to do in the margin of your notes is to write down at least 5 things that you see that are aspects of Manifest Destiny of spreading, westward expansion, so your causes, any groups that you might see that are affected, at least 5 things, and we will go over this image in class next time. So you might want to pause, take a look. All right, moving on. Your views of the West. There are a few settlers that are going to go there first because there's a misconception, a major misconception, that the land is not good for farming. So first you're going to have your mountain men who are going for furs, a lot of fur trapping, and they're going to find low passes through the mountains. Remember, at this time, you do not have an extensive amount of trains and roads and things like that in order to get west. Okay, with the God portion of wanting to spread from sea to shining sea, you do have quite a few missionaries. During the 1830s, you have the Second Great Awakening. Remember, we had our first Great Awakening during the colonization period where everybody's like, oh yeah, let's go to church, get our lives together, things like that. So your missionaries are going to go to some of your northwestern Indians and write about Easterners and about Oregon's fertile soil. And you're going to have this Oregon fever breakout. Everyone wants to move to Oregon. It's like the next big thing. You hear all these great things about it and everybody wants to go. That's what happens. And then you have some land speculators who see that there's going to be this movement of people wanting to move to Oregon. So they go out there, they buy land at low prices, and then they end up selling it higher afterwards once everybody starts to go in. Remember those laws of supply and demand that we talked about before with free enterprise. So they buy cheap and they sell it high. All right, with Oregon country, Britain and the United States are agreeing to joint control of the Oregon Territory in 1818. Polk, who is our president, is vowing to take all of Oregon. He's like, no, I'm not really in the business of sharing. So he is arguing for 54-40 or fight. And the 54-40 line is up here in present-day Canada. So you can see that they agree to divide it at the 49th parallel. And that is our treaty that occurs in 1846. right, your trails west. You're going to have quite a few trails that are going to be made as people are moving westward. And what you want to do, really, if you're going to come after folks, is go in a trail that's in a path that's already been established so that it's a little easier on you. Please make a note as you look at this map of what city most of your trails begin in. You can see a lot of folks are definitely looking to go to Oregon because of that Oregon fever. Okay, the Oregon Trail is one of your popular trails. Again, Oregon Fever. It's about 2,000 miles. It takes about 4 to 6 months, traveling 12 to 15 miles per day. Remember, people do not have the cars right now. So people are packing everything in their wagons. Your wagon size is about 4 feet by 10 feet. So everyone in the family, plus everything that they own, has to fit within that space. One of your obstacles and hardships, or some of them, are crossing the Rocky Mountains, obviously, and then you also have rivers that have to be dealt with. So it isn't the easiest of journeys. However, people are willing to take the risk in order to hopefully profit and have some opportunity later on. All right, your Mormon migration. This is another group of individuals who are going to move westward, and their reasoning is God in a different aspect, not of spreading the faith necessarily, but in trying to escape religious persecution. So the founder of the Mormon faith, Joseph Smith, is murdered. They're going to relocate often, and we'll see a map in a moment with the different relocation places due to their unique religious beliefs, and those unique beliefs are going to cause persecution, particularly in Illinois, where they are practicing polygamy, have common ownership of property, things that are not mainstream. Okay. Brigham Young is the individual who's going to lead them to Salt Lake City, where they will settle. They will adapt to that environment and may have human modification of the environment. Remember how much we love that term. And use irrigation to turn the dry lands in Utah into thriving farms so that they're able to be successful there. All right, so here's your Mormon migration. It began in New York. Okay, then they're going to move on to Independence, Missouri, settle in Illinois, where they face quite a bit of persecution, and eventually end up settling in the Salt Lake City region of what's presently Utah. All right, taking it back to last year, New Texas History Review. In 1830, Mexico is going to prohibit additional settlers from from the United States from coming into Texas. But people are going to keep on coming anyway because Mexico had opened it up like, hey, we need some more settlers. Come on out. You're more than welcome. And then they're like, no, closing the doors. So as that happens, you're going to end up having the Texas Revolution. The victory at San Jacinto is going to secure Texas's independence. In the election of 1844, James K. Polk is committed to national expansion. He promises that he's going to annex Texas and take over Oregon altogether. There's a quote from John O'Sullivan that says, "Our manifest destiny is to overspread and possess the whole continent which Providence or God has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty and self-government." So our purpose is to spread this type of government, this experimental government that's been working thus far, all the way across the continent. All right, so Texas gains its independence from Mexico in 1836, but is not accepted into the United States. Your previous presidents, like Jackson, Van Buren, they don't really want to deal with that because they fear a war with Mexico. And ultimately, if you add Texas, who at that time had slaves, it would destroy your balance of free and slave states, which should remind us again of the Missouri Compromise. You had a whole big to-do in order to make sure that you kept the balance in the Senate. Okay. So Texas is going to remain an independent nation until 1845 and then be annexed to the United States, again, because Polk is all like national expansion. You have the quote, "victory or death" within the Texas War for Independence, and make sure that you can remember who said that. That'll be a little review. So see if you can figure that out and put that in that blank. All right, this map is another rendition of our Missouri Compromise map. Remember that north of the line of your 3630 has to be free states. Okay, and then south of the line they can choose, or you would use popular sovereignty to determine whether or not that territory that would become a state would be slave or free. All right, so the Texas annexation is one of your causes for the Mexican and American War. In 1845, again, the United States accepts Texas as the 28th state. This leads to war with Mexico as predicted, which is why Texas wasn't annexed back in 1836. All right, your boundary disputes are going to lead to the Mexican-American War ultimately. And this occurs from 1846 to 1847. The United States is claiming that the Rio Grande is the southern border of Texas. So we're like, yeah, this is our border. Okay. Mexico claims that the Nueces River is the border. Okay. So they're like, no, border's really up here. Okay. So that dispute is going to lead to some issues. There's a military skirmish, and the statement's going to be made that there's shed American blood on American soil, and then, everybody's really behind the war effort then. Hey, your leaders of the Mexican-American War are going to be quite interesting, and these are people you want to keep in mind. So Zachary Taylor is your main U.S. general. He will become the president after Polk. Santa Anna is your Mexican general. And some of your future Civil War leaders, who we'll discuss at length later on, are going to serve together in this war. Okay, Robert E. Lee, Ulysses S. Grant, Jefferson Davis, key individuals we'll talk about plenty of times. All right, the Mexican cession. The United States is going to win the Mexican-American War. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo is going to end that war. Texas is officially a part of the United States and recognized by Mexico as such. The Rio Grande is now the accepted southern border of Texas and therefore the United States. The United States is going to pay Mexico $15 million, and with that acquires the lands of California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, parts of Colorado, and New Mexico. So there's a huge land grab that happens for the United States following the Mexican-American War. In 1853, we're going to purchase some more land with the Gadsden Purchase. The purpose here is to build the Transcontinental Railroad across some flat land that would unite the South and the Pacific coast. Okay, so you still have quite a bit of mountain range. It's a little mountainous here. So the Gadsden Purchase will help in having some flat land for railroad building. With the Gadsden Purchase, we paid $10 million. And this also leads to the banishment of Santa Anna. You recall that from Texas history. And expand some trade opportunities in the U.S. as well. All right, so how are we doing with Manifest Destiny? Polk fulfills most of his campaign promise. Okay, Oregon, Texas, and the Mexican cession are added during his presidency. So a key thing to remember with Polk is that more land is acquired under him than any other administration. All right, the gold rush is going to help build your population out west as well. In 1848, James Marshall is going to discover gold on property that's owned by Mr. Sutter, and Sutter's Mill in California is where your gold rush is going to begin. News travels very quickly, like, hey, let's get wealthy. So miners are going to arrive in 1849, hence the name 49ers, football team out in San Francisco. And so boom towns are going to result, your population grows, and it leads to quick statehood. The effects of the gold rush on California include that the population is going to boom, saloons will be established, and prices are going to soar. Remember, supply and demand. Hey, your effects of Manifest Destiny and particularly the addition of California on minorities is with your Native Americans, extensive loss of land, obviously. Many are killed intentionally or they die of disease. You have your rights of your Californians are not respected. Your Chinese miners are going to be taxed and persecuted. And Chinese people are going to open up and own shops and help build the Transcontinental Railroad. All right, so with Manifest Destiny, the United States does stretch from sea to shining sea, so we are successful there. But it will also lead to some conflict. We will discuss the Compromise of 1850 as we lead into some of your causes for the Civil War. Remember that you're constantly having to have this balance of slave and free states. Make sure that you filled in all of your things and you do have those little extras jotted down in the margin that I'll be checking in class.